That's right. I decided to do that because I was influenced by Bruce Gilden. So at first I just tried. I found nobody did this in Shanghai, so I tried several times, and finally I got my own way to use Flash.
Hey, so welcome to the third episode of Street Badass 10, and I'm pleased to present our special guest, Zeren. Zeren, how are you today, sir?
Yeah, I'm good. It's my pleasure to be here.
Okay, yeah, great to have you here too, Zeren. I'm really looking forward to your photography that we're going to go through here today, and one aspect of your photography that I find really intriguing and interesting is the fact that you use flash photography quite often and you use flash photography on the streets of Shanghai.
That's right. I decided to do that because I was influenced by Bruce Gilden. So at first I just tried. I found nobody did this in Shanghai, so I tried several times, and finally I got my own way to use Flash.
And you did. It looks great. So let's talk about these pictures. There we go. All right. Hey, so this one I believe is taken in Shanghai. You can see the Shanghai skyline behind her, and so she's got some beautiful red lips here, and some beautiful red lips here. So what can you tell us about this photo?
Actually, this is a very famous place in Shanghai for tourists. There are many people go there for sightseeing, and this old lady, she belongs to one of them. And when I noticed her, I found she is a very lovely uh, lady. And then I took a shot of her, and she didn't refuse. She seems to be very happy with that. So I took maybe 10 photos of her, and finally I choose this one because in the rest photos she is just to be like a tourist. Only this one, and I mean his face or his position, his hands and everything seems like she is waiting for someone or something. This kind of feeling is what I expected, so I choose this photo.
It's a great shot. I'm happy that you put that one in your choices. So that was number one. Let's go to number two here. This is a girl with a ball. So what can you tell us about the girl with the ball and the flash, Zaren?
I took these photos in a party. This girl, I know her, and she is my high school classmate. And when I was in the party, I took some photos like this kind of party photos, which I'm not satisfied with that. It's just ceremony photos. I don't like them. And this one I took when she prepared to go home. And then at that time, she's playing with her dog. He's throwing the ball to his puppies. I think this moment is what I want. So I told her to throw the ball, and she did that. And that this result is totally an coincidence, which there's a triangle shadow behind the ball, in this area, and also with his bra. I think that's quite interesting, and very creative. So I picked this one.
It's a great shot, Zaren. I like the triangle effect that you talked about, and it's very interesting how the ball is on top of the triangle with her eye behind in that beautiful sky there. Well done, sir. Let's go on to the next one here. So what can you tell us about this guy, Zaren? Great shot.
This is and documentary photo. I always taking photos in these areas. There are a lot of buildings which were demolished by the government, and I think this guy, he has one of his apartment here, but it was demolished. So he is very upset. I can see through his face, and that day is very very hot. It's maybe like 40 degree. So I didn't see him wearing any t-shirt, and I noticed that he has a very good texture of his skin. And then I use flash to take that one. I choose a good composition. At first, there's a car behind him. I didn't do it. I wait until the car drive away. So I did it. That background looks a little bit better. It's cleaner. So I think when I do a street photography, the background behind the guy, and is very very important because it shows where he is. Uh, I think this one, behind him there's are demolished buildings. There are some shops, which I like.
It's a great shot and a very kind of emotional shot, and like you said, documentary style. Thank you very much for sharing that with us, Zeren. Here we go to the next one. So, what can you tell us about this black and white shot with flash?
That day I was working in a very traditional place in Shanghai, which have many Chinese style buildings behind him. And at that day, I didn't prepare to take photos, but I happened to carry my camera. And when I saw this artist, he came here, and I took a photos. At first, I don't know who he is. I use flash, you know, through his face, and seems he is very interested in what I did. He didn't refuse me, and I took more. But this one is the first one, and he happened to be shocked by what I did with flash. I think maybe he never saw someone did this, So. mm so I was interested in his necklace, his sunglasses, and also his eyesight. You know, I actually I at first I want to do it as colorful, but then I realized that there will be too many colors in these photos. You know, so I feel very messy. It gives me a messy feeling. So after that, I turn it into black and white.
Great decision on the black and white, and I'm happy to see that you guys have people wearing camouflage. That's what we call the camouflage shirts over there in China as well, because that's something that's popular here with some people. But great shot. It actually looks very classic with the black and white and the flash once again, which works really well in your photos. Let's take a look at the next one. Hey, so what can you tell us about this guy with the phone? And I'm guessing that's T down there. So what can you tell us about this shot?
This photo is like something I did 20 years ago, but actually I did it last year in 2021. Um, he seems to be a very old gentleman, maybe a hippies when he's young. He's wearing a fur, and there's at at that day, it was it was 12 o'clock, and there are lights reflection of his fur jacket, and I saw he's carrying something, the T, and also the old style telephone. I haven't seen this cell phone for like maybe 15 years. So I took these photos. It was very classic, very retro. It was like 15 years ago.
It seems like it's almost a time traveler or something like that. Great shot, Zaren. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. So, what can you tell us about this amazing shot? This was actually, real quick, this was actually just featured on Street Badass on Instagram, and this was chosen by David. So, what can you tell us about this shot? I'm sure that he's curious to hear about it as well.
What I did at that night is an experiment. I want to do this kind of style. I tried several times, but I didn't. It didn't succeed. And finally, I saw this old gentleman with a blondie hair. His hair is blondie, and that attracts me. So I took photos of him when he's crossing the street. He didn't notice me. uh, it's the result is very good because after his head, there are a fruit shop behind him, and it happened to be the light. So when I did this, I noticed that the shop is behind him. I shake my camera a little bit, so this is the result.
I really like how the people, the gentleman with the cigarette's amazing to see, but also the blurry background with the people back there. Very interesting effect. I think that you nailed it on this one. Well done, buddy. Hey, so what can you tell us about this glamorous shot?
This photos has a special meaning for me. I took it in a ferry. You know, I noticed this girl. She dressed very fashion, but at that day she looks depressed. And then I go, I close to her. I take my camera with flash. I take these photos, and totally uh, she totally don't mind what I did. Maybe she is a photo, so he facing cameras all day, and there happened to be a wind blowing, and her hair is like this kind of feelings, which I'm very satisfied. Also, maybe my shadow speed is too fast, so half of her is dark, and the rest part is a bit brighter. That is a coincidence which I satisfied. You know, so sometimes uh, coincidence is always the most important thing in one photos.
They say the harder that you work, the luckier you get. So I think that you're probably working pretty hard to get this lucky. Let's take a look at the next one here. So what can you tell us about this portrait?
For me, this is a very cool shot because he is like an exterminator, like a robot feeling, a little bit cyber style, and with his cigarette and his eye. um, he's a very cool gentleman. And after I took this shot, I talked to him, and he has a very open-minded, which which is pretty cool. I haven't seen this kind of gentleman for a long time, and at that day, the light is very good. I also use my flash, so that makes the this his left chin not that dark. But this one I'm a little bit unsatisfied with his background. There are too many trees. I usually don't like trees. I think it will break the composition. So I did a very close shot to avoid these trees.
Very interesting. and cool shot. Thank you very much, Zeren. Let's take a look at the next one here. Here's the next one. We like to call these "Say It to the Hand." Say it to the hand. So, what can you tell us about this shot?
At first, I was hesitate if I will choose this photos, but finally I think it's really interesting. Um, it's a vehicle of tourists, and they're all having sightseeing. And I take my camera. At first, I want to shoot this little boy, but his parents refuse refuse me. Seems like they're protecting their kids. Um, there are three hands over. Uh, there is problem in these photos. There's a glass. There's a glass over here, so it looks a little bit blur. But it doesn't matter for me, so I choose this one.
I actually like the fact that this photo has glass. So it kind of adds to the drama. And one thing I really like is when you have the glass, you have the flash that you can see on the top hand, and that's very interesting to see. And there's also there's a barrier with the hands that's very interesting, and then the barrier behind the glass is very interesting. So I understand that when you take a picture and they say no, you wonder maybe if it's a great idea to post the picture or use the picture, show the picture, this kind of thing. But it is kind of interesting in the fact that it turned out that way. It wasn't really anything that you intended on, but I think the outcome was great. So it's a very interesting shot. I'm glad that you chose that one, Zaren. And so here's number 10. What can you tell us about this nice lady?
This is my New Year shot. It was the last day of 2021. It's a candid, although it's very close to a subject, but that's a candid. Um, I noticed a fur garment. Um, it's Canada Goose. So I shot of her face and her. I press a shadow. The result is very good. Also, there's some red. There's a red behind his her. Sorry. Also, there are panda eye in her hand, which is very interesting. So I haven't expected, and I'm really satisfied with that.
It's a really cool shot. Does it get really cold in Shanghai in the wintertime? Do you get snow and stuff like that?
That day is very cold. It's like maybe minus 20 or minus 10, but it didn't snow. So so everyone is wearing garments, and I don't like to take pictures of garment because the garment looks very heavy for me, you know. But that fur is very interesting. That's attract me. So I take that shot.
It's a great shot. Hey, so Zarin, I wanted to thank you for coming on and talking about your photography. It was uh, it was very interesting to hear you go through the 10, and it was very interesting to see which 10 you chose because I'm pretty familiar with your work because we've been friends for a little while now. And I do also want to thank you, if I can find the magazine here, thank you for submitting your work for the Street Badass Dirty Dozen zine. This is number 2, and your shots are actually right in the
Thank you
middle.
very much.
And so I
Thank
see
you.
that these 2 shots are actually from your top 10. So they turned out
Yeah.
great in the magazine.
Thanks, Todd.
So it's an honor to have you in there. And
Thanks for
thanks
inviting
again.
me.
My pleasure, Zaren. But thanks again for for coming on and talking to us about your work. It's always very interesting to speak to somebody from the other side of the world and to hear your perspective on photography and flash photography, because I know that flash photography is something that we both really like, and it's interesting to see your take on the photography, especially because it's flash. Um, compared to the other people that are around here in France and in other places. So it's very interesting insight. Thank you very much for coming on today.
Thanks, Todd.